So you want your users to be able to interact with your JavaScript, and as mentioned before, we try to separate out our JavaScript from our HTML code. And especially if you're linking to a JS file, when you have an on-click message, this doesn't really work within the best format. So we can actually get rid of this and add in an ID, and we'll give it a name of, and we can also grab that element. So we'll grab my button document. We can use query selector. And this time we're grabbing it by ID. So we need to specify just as we would with CSS using the hash for it. So that's going to also put the my btn into the JavaScript so we can make use of it. And the next thing that we wanted to do is we need to hook up that event listener. So that's what they're called in JavaScript. And now that I've got the my button object, I can add an event listener to it. So that's add event listener. And the event listener that I'm going to be adding is listening for a click. And then when it gets clicked, I want to invoke the function message. So let's try that out. So now when we click it, it's doing the same thing, and the code is much cleaner and easier to read. And then we've got that separation of our JavaScript from our HTML. So we can take this JavaScript code and we can put in a JS file, link it to our page, and any page that has an ID test button, we're going to be able to apply that clickable function to it. So you don't necessarily even need to have a click button. This could just as easily be a div as well. And that's the same thing for the on click. So whenever we click that div, we totally made it clickable, and it's functioning as a button as well. And in this case, you do have to apply some styling so that the users can tell that this is a button. So go ahead and try this out for yourself. Add an event listener and remove out all of your JavaScript from your HTML, creating that separation.